Hi everyone, my name is Wyatt Chang and I work as a technical game designer. Now we've established that the Demon Hunter, primarily about ranged, shadow, gadgets, and traps, we need some skills that kind of bring that to life. We want skills that sell those three concepts. So the first skill we're going to talk about today is called Bola Shot. Bola Shot sells two themes really well, ranged and gadgets. You can kind of see the way she runs around. She shoots out a bola, the bola wraps itself around the target and explodes. I really like this skill in the sense that it feels really tactical. That delay is kind of a drawback, but it's also something you can use to your advantage in the right situations. You're going to see a theme in all the skills that we talk about today. We always want to try and push the core concepts, the range, the gadgets, and the shadow. The next skill we're going to talk about today is Vault. Vault's a movement skill. Obviously, the Barbarian has leap attack, and the Wizard has teleport, and we wanted to make sure that all of our classes have a way to get around the battlefield. In this case, we wanted to sell the Shadow theme. Initially, we kind of talked about things like Shadow Vault and stuff like that, because we said, oh, well, we have to have a Shadow theme. But at this time, we were like, you know what, let's just call it Vault and let the art speak for itself. You know, there's no need to have to weave these concepts into every single skill. So we have the artistic representation has some acrobatics to it, has some shadow themes to it. It's basically a way to take a solid mechanic, wrap it up with the aesthetic that we're trying to sell, and deliver something that we think will be fun for the players. The next skill is Spike Trap. As we talked about, one of her themes is also going to be traps and gadgets. This is not unlike some of the assassin gameplay that you might have seen in Diablo 2. In this case, we want to sell, again, the shadow theme and the gadgets theme. You know, we just take an ordinary trap spell, weave in some shadow themes in the art, kind of brings out the flavor, it differentiates her from the other characters. Another thing I really like about Spike Trap is it has that sense of preparation, you know, because we want players to know the Demon Hunter is somebody who goes to sleep at night and dreams about killing demons. She wakes up in the middle of the night and says, oh, you know, I have this great idea for a trap that'll be awesome for killing demons. And she bakes it and she goes back to sleep and she wakes up and she, you know, kills a lot of demons. That's her thing. Also selling the idea of ranged attacks is grenades. I love this skill also in our game because it's showing off that we have a 3D engine, and so you can actually bounce the grenades off of the walls, off of the floors. I think it'll be an awesome way for players to try to come up with some creative uses for the grenades, throwing them around corners. It actually bounces around, and it shows, again, it sells the Demon Hunter's themes, ranged attacks, gadgetry, preparation, planning. This is premeditated demon killing going on. And finally, I want to show you guys Multi-Shot. Multi-Shot, some of you guys might remember from D2, but it's been amped up and brought to the next level for Diablo 3. We know Multi-Shot was a hugely popular skill in Diablo 2, so we wanted to make sure that we get the clicker going. There we go. We want to bring back that mechanic that we know, the skill people love, but artify it up for something more appropriate.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin. I'm going to be your content designer today. So on the second half of the show, we have a lot of new and improved skills and skill systems and other character things to show you. On the new side, we're going to show you a complete overhaul of the skill system itself, a launch of new class skills for each of the classes, a new trait system, and the introduction of the ever-elusive talisman. So let's get right to it. We have a lot to cover. All right, so skill UI. So when you have a bunch of cool skills like what Wyatt was showing you, the next thing we need to work on is to make them deep and replayable and to make it accessible. And on that end, let's break down the skill UI from last year and talk about some of the problems we had with it. So this is the one we had last year, and it was just big. All the choices were there at once. You could see the whole tree, which was a good thing. But it covered your character. It encouraged people to spend their skill points too widely, and experienced Diablo players know you want to choose fewer skills and spend more deeply into them. It had these 3 different class lines, which were a little bit arbitrary, and we learned that a little bit later. So we took this and we said, okay, how can we make this all more accessible without losing any of the depth? So we went to a tab system. So this was an improvement. In a major way, it made everything bigger. You could see it all easier. It compartmentalized it into the tabs. But with all these skill lines, honestly, fitting them all in there to be equal across the tabs, some of the skills were a little bit arbitrary. You still couldn't see all your options at once. You had to skip back and forth between the tabs. And people often, when they're leveling up, actually forgot to check on the other tabs and ended up spending more points in whichever tab they first chose to spend points in. So we went to a list approach. So this we were getting a little bit closer on. On the left-hand side, we had all 7 of your skills in one place. So this was a major improvement for us. You could see your entire sort of character build all in one place. And on the right, when you were choosing new skills, it was getting better. You could see everything bigger, you could see what you could choose next, and you could start thinking ahead by scrolling down the list. But it wasn't quite good enough. So here's the current UI. So we kept everything with the 7 skills on the left. And on the right-hand side, we made that whole window a lot bigger, so you could still plan ahead, but you could see all your choices available at one time, making the entire skill UI a lot more accessible, and at a glance, you could see what you could spend. But let's take a look at this in action. All right, so this became very straightforward, and again, this sort of UI idea that at a glance you know what to do. You look on your left and you can choose a new skill or spend points in your old skills. So this was good. Let's spend some points and get a new skill. Okay, and so choosing a new skill, very straightforward, and upgrading them is also a lot easier. Frankly, if you see a blinking plus sign, that means you can spend points in it. If there's no plus sign, that means you've maxed it out. Now, a little extra insight into the 7 skills. At the beginning of the game, every skill that you choose has 5 skill points you can put into it, but throughout the course of the game, you have ways to deepen that and augment the skills so that you can spend more points into them. So initially, you know, it's much easier to make builds. It's easier to think ahead. It's easier to respec when you want to do that as well, and you can try a lot of things very rapidly. But there's a lot more to the skill system than just this.
So a little bit earlier on, showed you some of the Demon Hunter skills that we're excited about, but we've also been working on fleshing out and getting new skills for the 4 classes that we had already announced. Show you some of those today. So obviously, for the Barbarian, we want to flesh him out, and we knew that he needed a ranged attack. And so here's an example of Ancient Spear. Now, we don't want to turn the Barbarian into a ranged class, so this is something that feels very appropriate for him. We want to sell the themes that he's strong, he's tough, he's melee. So we had to come up with something that felt appropriate for that. Over for the Wizard, we're bringing back another fan favorite. In the same way we brought back multi-shot, bring back some Meteor. Meteor was also a really popular skill in D2. People liked it. We liked the gameplay of it. So we brought it back, artified it up, and I'll tell you right now, when you get some runes in Meteor, that's like just, it's 5 times the fun. Also talk about the Witch Doctor. I mentioned earlier, I alluded that we kind of want some movement options for every class. In the Spirit Walk is the movement skill for the Witch Doctor. We wanted, again, something that stays thematically consistent for every class. In the Witch Doctor's case, he's about spirits and voodoo, so a Spirit Walk ability where he turns incorporeal, he can walk around, he can walk through enemies, he can go around a corner, and then when Spirit Walk ends, he comes back and his physical form becomes teleported to wherever his spirit form is when the ability ends. It's pretty cool.